very much. Hello, everyone. My name is Kevin McAlowy. This is the Wilde Village Board you've heard about. Welcome, audience. First things on the agenda is the call to order. Obviously, we've done that. The approval of the agenda. I'd like a motion to approve the agenda.
So I'd like to add an item to the agenda, and then Jeff can so approve them. I'd like to add a 10-minute review of the Bryant Woods entrance sign.
And for the board, would you like to add that into the agenda or add it into someplace else?
Sure. Add it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Make a motion to.
So moved.
Hold on. I would like to make an additional motion. Let's see, Nancy is going to be leaving very shortly, and we've got a longer resident speak out than usual. So what I'd like to do is move Nancy to before resident speak out. Is that right?
Thank you.
Is it? So if we can make two motions, or a two-part motion to extend to two individuals to move up to the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the
Two-part.
amended agenda. Somebody second quick. Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any questions? No? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? So moved. Next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from January 11th, 2016. Like a motion, please.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from the last
Second.
board meeting.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions? No? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? So moved. All right. Next thing on the agenda is the special presentation. It is extremely warm in here. Is it just me? I had a wave all of a sudden. It's come this way.
It's not supposed to happen.
I'm sorry, as I'm under the lights.
And you have the lights heating up behind you.
No, it is warm. You're right. It is warm.
It is
warm.
warm.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
All right. Without further ado, I'm sorry. I'd like to welcome Howard Community College. They're going to be presenting the facilities master plan.
Go sit here.
We are going to be showing it from that side, so if you want to move away from the screen or whatever, so you can see a little bit
I know.
better.
Good to see you. Yes. Congratulations. Oh, thank you. Yes. Except for
My name is Lynn Coleman. I'm the Vice President of Administration and Finance at the Community College, and we really appreciate you allowing us to come speak to you tonight. We completed our facilities master plan last spring. We're required by the state to update it every 5 years, and I know Kevin came to our meetings, and we thank you for participating in that process. So we just wanted to show the full board what we had done on our campus, and if you have any questions, since you're our neighbors, we wanted to be, town-gown relationships. We wanted to enhance those. So Shelley Biello is with me tonight. Shelley led the whole master plan process, and she's going to do our presentation. And then we have Travis Hopkins here. He's our facility planner, and he's also working on the new garage that's coming up. And Bob Marietta, who is our safety and sustainability administrators with us too. And I know Bob's worked on so many different projects with our bike paths and worked with the Wilde Lake Village Center on some of the path issues, and also we just want, here to answer questions too. So I'm going to turn it over to Shelley.
Safety bomb.
Safety
So be careful in the parking lot.
Well, thank you very much for having us here tonight. In case you're interested, here is a board showing all of our proposed capital projects over the next 10 years, if you want to take a look at that. And then I'm just going to run through a slideshow presentation, and please interrupt me if you have questions as we go along.
Can we
So,
top lights?
sure.
Okay.
Behind here.
Better.
How's that? Is that better? A little better. There we go. Is that good? Okay.
Awesome.
Okay. As Lynn mentioned, we just recently embarked or completed a year-long facilities master planning process. The community colleges in the state of Maryland are mandated in COMAR under law to provide a comprehensive facilities master plan, and it must be updated every 5 years, or if there's a significant change in the mission or role of the institution. So here you can see where it talks about the Code of Maryland regulations. The update is due, and the plan is updated every 5 years. When we do this process, we also like to open it up to the community. We held 2 community breakfast meetings and invited folks in to give us some information and input as we were developing the plan. So the master plan itself basically establishes the framework for the orderly development of capital projects on campus. And it also has to support the mission, vision, and role of the institution. In addition to the traditional elements that go into a master plan, we also ask the consultants to take a look at these additional key tasks, which I'll highlight as we go through the presentation and just describe a little bit to you. And then again, as I had mentioned before, it must also be guided by the college's mission, vision, and strategic goals. The successful consultant that was hired for the project team consisted of Canon Design, which is an architectural and planning firm, and then their sub-consultants also included Symetra Design, who helped us develop a transportation demand management plan, and Site Resources did a facilities condition assessment for us. And this just kind of gives you an overview of what the project timeline looked like. It seems like a long time to spend a whole year doing a facilities master plan, but it starts with the whole research at the beginning. You know, you do your analysis, look at those opportunities, you start developing the plan, and then you finalize the plan and come up with the recommendations. So that when I talked about those additional tasks, the facilities condition assessment is a very important component, because obviously you want to take care of your existing facilities and make sure that they are maintained properly. It takes a look at architectural, structural, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, accessibility, site, and so forth, so that we make sure that we are keeping our facilities up to code.
What's circled?
Circled is just showing some of the guys on the rooftop there.
Oh, it's
Yes, it's hard to see, kind of taking a tour of the mechanical systems and taking a look at the roof and the structure and making sure everything's in.
I thought they were in tennis.
Yeah.
What is the average age of a building?
The average age, well, for our purposes, for the state, the building must maintain a 15-year life.
Oh, okay.
Matter of fact, you may or may not be aware that capital projects are funded using 15-year general obligation bonds. So the state requires that any funding that it gives on a capital project, and our capital projects are typically funded 50% state and 50% county, must have a minimum year of 15-year life.
But the Clark building is 40 years old.
40 years old. And a lot of our facilities, yes.
The structures, a lot of them have seen new renovations, so the base structures are varying age, but the interior.
But the interiors get
be
modified.
different ages.
Yeah, and that's one of the purposes that for the facilities condition assessment, also to take a look at those. Obviously, there's pros and cons with construction that occurred back in the 1970s when the college first started versus the construction availability of materials and so forth now. The second task that we tackled was space needs analysis. Not only did we want to take a look at our students and how our students were using the facility, but were we doing a good job of filling our classrooms, of utilizing our existing buildings? You know, how are we putting those students in the seats in the classroom? And then we also wanted to take a look at enrollment from where the college started in 1970. And then this goes through the completion of our health sciences building. Enrollment is the key justification for the development of new construction on campus. So you can see as our enrollment went up, you can see how the buildings increased on campus to accommodate that growth. And then the environmental scan that we did actually looks at trends, local, state, and national trends, and helps really guide and direct the academic plan and what kind of academic offerings are going to be held at the college. We also wanted to take a look at technology and infrastructure. As anyone knows, technology changes very rapidly, and so we wanted to get an idea of what the classroom of the future really was going to look like, and are we serving the needs of our students and our faculty and staff at the college. Traffic, our favorite topic, as everyone knows. This was a very important aspect of completing the plan. And in addition to, taking a look at transportation and modes of transportation and taking a look at our campus, we also wanted to complete a transportation demand management plan so that we could implement that as well and have that to sustain us. Sustainability was included and also consistent with the new stormwater management regulations. And then signage. When you get onto campus, can you find your way around? Do you know where you're going? Is the signage appropriate to meet your needs? So we also wanted to make sure that the plan was quantitative and qualitative. And as we were going through some of the exercises, we were taking a look at, what is the college's front door? Do we have more than one front door? What kind of student study space do we have available? Who is the traditional HCC student? Years ago, a community college was the type of campus, it was a commuter campus. Students came on campus, they took their classes, they left to go to their jobs. Now we find that students stay on campus a lot longer and they're expecting the same amenities, or at least similar amenities to what you might find at a four-year institution. So we've kind of grown and developed with that as the needs of our students have changed. And then this is our existing campus. All those buildings there kind of in the brown are our existing facilities, and the gray area are the parking garages. And as we were going through the planning process, some of the issues that came up that we wanted to address were a very common issue is the pedestrian and car or vehicular conflict areas. If anyone's been on campus trying to get to buildings, there's areas where pedestrians are trying to cross and traffic is trying to come in. If you've ever been trying to go in or out of the Hickory Ridge exit especially, it's very difficult to maneuver with the traffic that's trying to get out there and turn onto Hickory Ridge Road. We have had some improvements with the circle coming in and now 2 lanes coming into campus, but one of the proposed changes in the plan was to reconfigure or realign the road to try to eliminate some of those conflicts. The idea is to push the traffic and the parking on the periphery of campus, leaving the interior part pedestrian friendly and vehicular free. And then that also opens up some area for a new development on the south end of campus as we are looking down the road for future areas for development. Taking a look at land use is also critical. Not only do we want to identify those vehicular zones, areas where pedestrian flows, but we also want to celebrate open space. And then we talked about, how do we connect the north and the south? We have so much activity. There's a lot of buildings on the north end of campus. So when we do start developing on the south, how are we really going to move the flow of people from north to south and kind of, have that connection without separating it in 2 quadrants, so to speak, or 2 areas, so to speak. And then as we were developing the plan, we obviously wanted to follow these campus planning principles to help us with the development of the buildings and prioritizing the capital projects. So some of these plan recommendations are what the consultants came up with through a lot of our meetings, charrettes, meeting with constituency groups and different groups throughout campus. We talked about some of those, the pedestrian and car conflict zones, celebrating the green space, kind of tying the north and the south together. And then this is what the final proposed master plan looks like, 10-year plan, but it also includes a 20-year land use plan. Now, I know this is broken down into phases, which is consistent with how the state likes us to propose capital projects. I wanted to clarify, though, however, even though the plan was published last February of 2015, it's obviously changed. When we started developing the plan, it was in 2014. Ironically, if I didn't mention earlier, because we update the plan every 5 years, it feels like as soon as we're done, we're developing the scope of work, the RFP, we're getting ideas and input together to start with the next plan. So we actually started this whole process in 2013, most of the work took place in 2014 and the plan was published in 2015. So since then, we've had a change in administration. Our county executive has changed, the governor has changed, and priorities change as well as debt affordability limits, are different. So realistically, if we, at one point, we've been very fortunate to have significant support from both the county and the state in the development of buildings on campus. But realistically now, looking forward, if we get one project or one phase of one project per year, the next building to be proposed, a new construction project, would be the math building. And that right now looks like it's falling around fiscal year 20. So our next new building would not be proposed until fiscal year 20. So as we go forward and we update the plan and we go into that next planning session for updating the plan, these timelines will adjust. The projects will likely stay pretty much in the same sequence, although priorities do change, and these are really just placeholders.
So where's the parking garage you said that would be going in? Didn't you say something about a new parking garage?
Yes, sir, I sure did. If you can see, and Lynn gave me this handy dandy little pointer here. This is the east garage right here. This box up here, and I have a couple other slides coming up that highlight this better, is the proposed expansion of the east garage, and that includes 750 parking spaces that will connect right back out onto Little Patuxent Parkway. So it actually will help, I think, with the flow of traffic. So now instead of just having the main entry points here, Hickory Ridge, Little Patuxent, and then this was kind of like a service entrance, although this did flow back into the east garage, we'll have another point of access here at Little Patuxent Parkway. And I'll move forward to that. Travis can speak to that a little bit better if you have questions. So again, when we were talking about keeping parking on the periphery of campus, you can kind of see where those parking lot areas are kind of pushed out to the exterior. And again, as the way this is being constructed, the existing east garage remains open so that the expansion part is a standalone facility and then will be connected with bridges once it's ready, and then that connection will come out here. We talked about pedestrian flow through campus, bicycle. Obviously, you've seen some nice activity with the new bike paths that are going on. We have tied our master plan into what the county's doing as far as coordinating, with their bicycle and pedestrian network. You can see here, and Bob can speak to this. This is an overlay map, so this kind of goes out across here, connects into Hickory Ridge area, into Wilde Lake area. You've got your paths here.
You have very few bike racks at this point on campus.
We've done a number of
Until
things.
a month ago,
Bob.
that was true.
Yes.
We installed 33 more bike racks.
Hey.
No, more on the way if there's need for them.
Yeah.
It's cheaper.
And then we talked a little bit about celebrating the open space. And then as of January, we just wanted to give you an idea of what projects are going on campus right now. And this slide Bob put in here, did you want to describe a little bit about this, Bob?
Well, you can see at the top there is the connection through the middle school across the
Yay, Bob.
yeah, Kevin worked with me on that.
Yeah, this is.
Sorry, here we go.
Actually,
Just here?
No, the top. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's
Well, that's-
No,
This
you
is-
were right.
you were right,
First,
okay.
you were right.
Okay.
It's at
in the
bottom.
red.
Yes,
Yeah.
in the red. So this here is the garage, and the next slide will show the construction of the expansion. And then we'll have an access point that comes in here between Firestone. And then here's the connection here that can come both ways. Is that right, Bob?
Yep.
To Wilde Lake.
And then across the campus, we're going to formalize the existing paths and make it a little more biker and pedestrian friendly.
Nice.
So you can get down there around the garage and through or by the athletic fields and out on the Hickory Ridge Road.
Are there gonna be little jitneys where you can hop on?
Dragon wagon.
I mean, like, I was at an event, I don't know, about 6-7 weeks ago, it was like, and I'm like walking past the construction, I feel like I'm going up a hill. I know it wasn't a hill, and I think, and I'm thinking like, it's gotta be a struggle for a lot of folks to get from the parking all the way down to the other side, to the buildings. Have you discussed anything like that?
We have, I mean, yes, there are some concerns. We do have, that's one of the disadvantages of kind of pushing the parking on the periphery of campus.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a little farther away from the buildings than we would like. While we have ADA accessible spaces near the buildings, the majority of parking then falls in the garages. So if you're parking, here on the surface lot and walking down to the Visual Performing Arts Center, or if you're parking in the west garage and walking to the back for an event in the Smith Theater or something, it can be a hike. It can be a bit of a distance.
Right, and those spaces get snuffed up like
Really quickly.
really quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's good. It's something that we're taking back to look at, especially as we're implementing the transportation demand management plan and see what things that we can
Thank you.
adjust to make those accommodations.
But we do have 5 times the amount of ADA required parking by code. Of course, that doesn't mean you'll find one where you want.
Where you need to park, exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
A jitney's a good idea.
Yeah, I'm starting a jitney business and.
There we go.
I'm sure we could talk.
Leave your card. We'll take your card. Okay, and then we definitely wanted to give you an update on,
Concentrating on the east.
yes, on the east garage. Here's a picture of it,
Where
and
it is
then
now.
here's a better kind of a draft. Did you want to talk a little bit?
So this, this is connecting with the existing east garage, along with the road through between Grempler and Firestone and the county. We have designed an intersection for them to put up a signalized intersection. Whether or not they construct it is sort of entirely up to them on that. We're connecting the 2 garages with ground connections and 1 vehicle bridge and then pedestrian bridges on all the other levels. The new intersection hopefully coming in a little Patuxent sort of will hopefully alleviate the very long backup we have in the mornings that I've been experiencing for most of my career here. Except when I lived, over towards Harper's Choice, that takes sort of Jen Street across, or bike through Wilde Lake to get to the.
Yeah. So this garage holds 511 spaces, and then this one proposed would be 750. About 750. So that would then push a lot of traffic in and out of this area. And help alleviate some of that congestion in the main entrance.
We'll have a new pedestrian bridge going across to sort of connect up to them. So that'll give us 2 pedestrian bridges out of the garages.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And that will go over to Clark
It'll
Library?
land at the corner of Clark. It won't connect straight into Clark. It'll just sort of land next to it.
I see.
And it's covered so we don't have to shovel it. And then I was on snow crew for about a decade. I'm just like, I wanted a roof on top of the garage and everything else. Lynn wouldn't let me. So the bridge going across the stream there is actually, it's a bridge. It's elevated. There's maybe 20 or so columns. So the stream bed and everything else stays in place. MDE's tickled pink about that.
I bet.
And actually, when we did a cost analysis, it was cheaper than any of the alternatives. So it's the most environmentally friendly and the least expensive. Win-win for everybody for one of the rare occasions in my career on that. So that's pretty much the garage. There'll be pedestrian connection across the bridge, and it'll be wide enough for bicycles, but I think will be.
Yeah.
And
The preferred bicycle path.
preferred bicycle down Faculty Drive to the lower right there, but you can definitely still get a bike in and through. And there's a pathway going between, so in case you do get your bike, if you do go down that way with your bike, you can get out of traffic flow. and not have to bike through a garage, which is just dangerous enough driving through it with a car, let alone a bike.
For sure.
Having biked around a lot around here, I understand all this.
And as we said, in order to be able to continue to use this garage, they're building this as a standalone, and then these are the areas where it'll connect.
So if you've been into the east garage lately, you'll see the concrete things glued to the side. And it's those are the getting ready for the bridge connections.
That's awesome.
So it goes up as like a giant 500-piece Lego set. I knew all that work in my youth was paying off now. So it's good.
Is there room for another garage? Should it be predicated at some point in your 20-year plan?
So
We do, I don't know, living garages, but
the
we
master
do.
plan,
The master plan does have it.
it'll show it on Lot A, which is
But that could change.
yeah, it can change. It's a lot. It's right there.
Two Hickory Ridge Garage.
There you go.
Yeah. So the Lot A, that's right in back of where Duncan Hall is. That was designed that it would accommodate a garage. So it was when we first constructed that garage, it was with the intention that perhaps in the future we would need to convert that. I'm sorry, when we first constructed the surface lot, it was with the understanding that we may need to use this space for a garage. And that is in our master plan proposed as the north garage. So this would be north, this is the west, this is the east.
I believe we have that one planned is not as tall as the other ones, so that way we sort of keep it hidden from view from Little Patuxent across the way.
You could put a green roof up there.
We could put it down there.
We look at that real seriously for every building.
Really?
Yes.
That's true.
Just for my curiosity, going past the Grempler building, can you describe a little better how that traffic flow will be?
Okay. So coming across the bridge, there's going to be 2 lanes, and then just as we hit where it stops, it's going to widen out to 3, 1 coming in, 2 going out. So it'll be a right turn only, and then like a left straight, I believe is what the county sort of has this planned out. They're going to add a left turn lane on the heading towards the hospital side. So they're going to extend that out. They'll also add a left turn lane on the westbound side also. I don't know. I think across with Little Patuxent is fairly stay the same, just sort of 2 lanes, 1 in, 1 out, because they have less traffic. But we'll have surges of lots of cars coming in.
Okay. I'd like to, on behalf of our board here, Bob knows where I'm coming from on this, and I think Lynn does also. What I'd like, can I use your pointer?
Of course.
Thanks. From the Wilde Lake
Yes.
point of view, what we'd like to advocate with you and on behalf of Wilde Lake Village and Howard Community College is making sure that this is at least a 4-way crosswalk. And then our pathway that Bob was so helpful on ends here, has a nice crosswalk with lights that get our students and our pedestrians across from here and then onto your bridge and so on. So this intersection, we'd like for you as a community advocate to help us make sure that that light goes in. We will back you 100% if you will help us at least a little bit on making sure that that's always in your talking points.
But
That
the county has
connection right there.
described it to us as a full box
Yes, full
intersection.
box.
So there's 4 crosswalks,
Yeah. Oh,
actually, all the way around with
Excellent.
crossing lights.
Yeah, they're raising to the
pedestrian
same
signals.
same standards as all the other ones.
All right, fantastic.
At least last plans that I saw.
Right.
And
So
we'll continue to promote that.
Thank you. Thank you. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah.
And like I said, we love the college. We really enjoy our relationship and our rapport. And that's the one thing that will help us on this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We want to see more people out of their vehicles and walking as well, not only for wellness, but for sustainability, to reduce our carbon footprint, to help relieve congestion. And that's the best way to get students there.
They did do a traffic study, and it did have apparently passed all the warrants necessary for that, for a light there.
Okay.
And yeah, they were just going to raise it to the same standard that they have been all the way down Little Patuxent, which is good to see.
All right. Any,
And
you're still going?
Well, this is just the final
Sorry.
plan, which looks like the board behind me. And then that's the artist rendering of what the campus might look like.
Yay!
Any questions?
I don't, I'm having a hard time conceptualizing where the pale green flats are there.
These here,
Yeah.
these are the athletic fields. So if you're looking, this is the south. One of the things when we were talking about earlier about the Hickory Ridge entrance, because we have not been successful in being able to get any kind of traffic calming device on Hickory Ridge, and that's also because there's some other folks who have similar needs at the medical pavilion and so forth up by Charter Drive. We talked about coming in this entrance and creating our own circle to kind of divert traffic around the periphery of campus. This would be the new proposed athletic facility. If anyone's been in our gym, you know, that's one of the original buildings on campus. Yes. So it's definitely in need for, you know, a new facility. And then these are the existing athletic fields, again, where we would kind of celebrate that open space. We'd have trails and things coming through here. This is all the forested area. And this would be the existing garage, the expansion. This doesn't do a good job of showing the connection through the tree line onto Little Patuxent, but that's the Grempler building right there.
We put it really close to the tree.
Yeah. And so that kind of, and then this is obviously the north side of campus, and then your connection into Wilde Lake would be right in that way. Any questions or comments? Anything that you would like me to take back as we're thinking about our next planning cycle? Other than obviously we want to make sure that we're well connected and we'll keep working with the county on the pedestrian cross there for the new light.
Board, anything for Shelley? Or Bob or Travis or Lynn?
Or Lynn.
All right,
Well,
let's turn
thank
some
you
lights
very
on here.
much.
Thank you, Lynn.
I just have one question about the population. Because every time that there's some sort of expansion, the newspaper comes out with, you know, the enrollment has increased or whatever. Do you have a projected population growth with the expansion as it goes along?
Well, currently, if you looked at our unduplicated head count, we're at about 36,000 students. So that's a huge number, a huge population, 36,000. That's credit and non-credit. But as the economy has changed, for a while, when the economy was in a decline, community colleges were the best opportunity for students and the most economical. So our enrollments were going up. Things have kind of steadied and leveled off right now. While we report to the Maryland Higher Education Commission, and they have some very high projections for us in 10 years. Realistically, our consultants came up with about a 25% increase over 10 years, which is still high. Each year that'll be analyzed and we'll take a look at where our growth is. But I would say, Lynn, don't you agree, we've been relatively flat over the last couple of years? Although we're much better off than a lot of our peer institutions. We're in a great location right on the Baltimore Washington corridor, so we still get a lot of traffic. Where some of our other, colleagues at some of the smaller institutions further out, like Allegheny or Garrett and so forth, have seen a decline in enrollment. But
part of that has to do with the high school population.
Yes.
Actually, the graduating classes for Howard County even have actually gone down. They are scheduled to start going back up in FY18, but that's the graduating class has actually gone down. So
It's fascinating.
yeah, it is.
Well, thank you very much.
Anything else? Thank you so much.
Yay.
Oh, thank you. That was very kind.
So,
That was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
These are so cute.
The bike racks, spring.
Yes.
We started a bike walk program so that we can encourage people, if they don't want to park on campus, they can keep a log, and if they're biking or walking to campus, we'll give them like a $5 meal voucher to the cafe or to the Starbucks. So keep that in mind if you come over and you're, come report it to us.
He'll be over.
Have lunch with us.
Yes.
I'm behind you, Jeff. Let me move through.
Troy's supposed to be on that, but with spring coming.
Well, we don't.
Next on the agenda is Nancy. She's going to speak very, very quickly for the Columbia Association.
Okay.
And I have some questions.
Yeah, I would imagine probably.
Additional comments. It was me. I think, I mentioned before that there are serious issues going on in the board. And I think that indicates what some of my comments are, is the fact that I think a lot of things are not getting done that need to get done. It's needed. And one of the things we've been hoping to do is to get the facilities, and Milton Matthews, President Matthews, is working on this, getting the facilities all lined up so that we know exactly what needs to be taken care of, because they are aging. We are gonna be putting in the new tennis facility. That's the land swap, as you might have seen, was approved, and so that will begin the process. So we can get the tennis facility up, but all of our other facilities, except for the Haven. And now, the Hobbits, Glen Golf Course, or golf club are new, but everything else is pretty old, especially the swim center. So you see with the swim center, they're beginning. That they give a 15-year life to, and after that period, well before that period, but after that, I think they're gonna have to find another way to deal with having a swim center. But that's still a few years out, we don't need to worry about it today.
So I'm okay till I'm 90.
Is that what you?
So now we know how old you are?
I'm not 89 yet.
Any questions for Nancy?
Question, which was gonna be my watershed thing here. I saw that the ERC approved the resolution to, oppose the
fee, the reduction or the removal of the fee.
the removal of the stormwater fee.
Right.
And that was the question that I had, and we were kind of
And I
going
think
back
we're
and forth
voting
about
very
that.
soon.
I was wondering if you had an idea when that would be
Somebody's,
voting.
I think this is what they were talking about, and I can't remember, but I think somebody said 30 to 60 days. So I don't know exactly when this is gonna happen, but it was approved that we oppose it.
That's awesome. Okay.
What impact that'll have, I have no idea.
So the next question I had, which I sent over to Brian, was how do we make that known to, how does the board make that known?
Send a
to the
letter
town?
to the council,
Okay,
and I would recommend maybe if Wild Lake Village Board wants to do such a thing, to send a letter as well, opposing the removal of the stormwater fee. And I would suggest that they don't just remove it, but that they also look at ways to change the way it's currently being handled. Because the concern is, and I know I've spoken to Mr. Kittleman about it, that there are farms and there are large properties with very long driveways and farm buildings with very large roofs. And so they're getting hit pretty hard. And so all they have to do is change how these people are gonna be assessed. And I think it wouldn't be unreasonable for them to have some kind of thing to mitigate the large amount of money that they would be charged. But for most people who live in houses, whether it's single family, condo, or townhouse, the fees are relatively small and certainly needed to address the stormwater problems.
And then the nonprofits have their, not exempt, but there are programs in place to help them deal with it. Many of the churches and synagogues,
Good
and the
point.
Ready program and whatnot have been.
what's happening, and I saw this today, is that the county is going to start programming like Columbia Association is with the 50% rain gardens, and they're shifting the plan that CA has into the county, because
Oh,
there's a
good.
lot of repercussion, a lot of backlash on the fact that all of these incentives were just going to disappear, and then why would people be bothered to
Well, of
even
course.
do anything like you're talking about?
Well, and the fact that
remediation?
it wasn't for all of Columbia either, it was only for parts of Columbia that had this stormwater problem. But there could be areas that we're not even aware of, and it should go to everybody and anybody that wants it.
Well, thank you. Any other questions? Thank you.
And you're still HR?
HRD, and HRD is
Is
now
HR.
controlled by our Howard Hughes Corporation.
Okay, that's
It's
what I
like
was
one
curious.
person, I
I
think.
didn't know that HRD even existed.
Oh, yes, it does, exactly.
All right, next on the agenda is the resident speak out, and I understand we have a very, very, how should we say this in English?
Prestigious gentleman.
But I was thinking, we have a presentation during the resident speak out.
Yes, please.
Oh, it's a prestigious presentation.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I missed
It's a
this.
PP.
You're gonna tell us what you're doing at Hickory Ridge.
Actually, ironically, I'm here twofold. And joining me this evening is Kevin Allen. I know all of you know Kevin.
Oh, and it's been such a long time.
It has been a long time. Probably 3 or 4 years.
That's when you were the man, you were the everything.
Your name has been on every billboard around.
There's been a lot.
Years.
Hi, nice to see you.
Good to see you.
Oh, you're bad.
It's okay. Sorry. Once again,
Thank you.
thank you.
Finance.
Sorry,
Oh, no, no,
I'm
you're
sorry to
doing
miss this,
fine.
but it's probably gonna be good too.
Actually, we're here about 2 things. One, I did want to bring you up to date on Hickory Ridge. I brought
Hold on just a second. We have an audience at home. Audience at home, this is Greg Reed. He's the director of Kimco Roasting, right?
technically the vice president of development.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I wanted to bring you up to date on Hickory Ridge first and where we are. We are having, actually, if you remember, some of you probably do this process, we have entered the official CB29 Village Center redevelopment process. Our first, what's called workshop meeting, community workshop meeting is February 18th at Athelton High School in the evening. That meeting, the intent of it is for Hickory Ridge to develop their village plan and also outline their village boundary. Now, they have done all that, so this will be more of a meeting to go over the village plan and boundary they currently have in place and how our proposal is going to be affected by it, and what we're meeting, what we're not meeting, and sort of a negotiation on what they can do. And then they have the option, much like the Village Center did Wilde Lake, of amending their plan. Actually, Wilde Lake wrote their plan at the time, but they can amend their plan any way they see fit. Then in March, about 4 weeks later, we have our first pre-submission meeting, which is another one of the steps in CB29. After that, we have to have a second pre-submission meeting. Then we go to planning board and then zoning board, which is the city council or county council sitting in zoning board. So to go over sort of the plan, this is Hickory Ridge Village Center. This is the giant that sits here today. There is small retail along the edge of the giant. This is the other retail building with the village sort of courtyard running down the middle. There's a bank with a drive-through that's vacant now, and then this is the SunTrust Bank that has remote drive-through over there.
Your Freetown Road is
Freetown Road,
there, okay,
Cedar Lane,
right, okay.
and then Quarterstaff. This is the gas station that sits on the corner. It will remain. We're actually not planning to touch the gas station whatsoever. There's a large parking field over here, and then there's another large parking field over here. I'm sure you're familiar with, but sort of what happens in this center is most of the giant customers park over here. The giant entrance is actually right in the middle of the courtyard. So as a giant customer, you have to traverse through the village green to the entrance. This really functions as the back of the center today. These tenants along here have struggled with visibility. We do have a new signage plan that we're trying to implement, but the redevelopment will change all of this that we're proposing. But this is sort of the back of this center. This center has almost no visibility to Cedar Lane, which would be the main road because of burning and trees that are out here today. So this plan was unveiled a couple weeks ago at Hickory Ridge. And I will say up front, from the construction here at Wilde Lake, we learned a lot on how to build and rebuild an active village center.
Uh-oh.
So what we're proposing to do is, this is the Giant still today. This is where the Village Green is today, and the other retail building sits like this. So our proposal is to tear down this retail building. Part of this proposal that works out with this versus what we did here is you're gonna have the ability to build these 3 outbuildings and construct and maintain this parking lot and the parking around this building, while the rest of the village center and the main parking field that's over here, while this parking field remains active. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put a building here, put a building here, and remove this drive-through, remote drive-through facility, put the building and the parking on both sides. That will allow us to keep the main part of the village center intact and operating with over 300 and some parking spaces in the existing field. The other advantage to this is we can relocate. It's about 30,000 square feet of inline retail here. We can relocate, if any of the tenants would like, to the new buildings that we're putting around the perimeter, and they won't lose downtime. Maybe a weekend to move some of their things, but there won't be an extensive downtime with their facilities. Our next goal after we get these buildings open and operating will be to come back and take out this building here and build this parking field. While we're building this parking field, these buildings will still have use of this large parking facility here. This building will have the parking facility on both sides, and Giant still will have their 300 spaces over here on the side, so that the center can still operate as we go through this phasing. Because now we're probably, from the time we start, we're probably in year 2 of construction. So in the first year, we get everything built around the perimeter, and then we take and put this parking lot in the next year.
How many square feet of those 3 little buildings?
These 3 buildings work out to be about 18,000 square feet
Total.
total.
And what you're ripping down is?
We're removing 30, but we already have a vacant bank that's like 4 or 5. We've already talked to a couple of the existing restaurant tenants. One of the tenants is a little over 6,000 square feet. He's well oversized. He doesn't want to be that big. He wants to come back in 2. We have a couple tenants that we can move in over here. So from all our preliminary discussions we've been having for the last 6 months, we can accommodate what we have. Some of them are willing to go dark and close to come back in what will be phase 3 I'll discuss in a minute. What we find important to this is Giant. Of course, as we all discussed here extensively, the grocery anchor is the most important thing. And if you look at what we did at King's years ago, we had Safeway, and Safeway struggled. Part of their struggle was their entrance was turned to the side, just like the Giant is today. And when Safeway was going away and struggling, we could never get a grocer to go back in with that side entrance. They all wanted to be Harris Teeter's position today, entrance to the front. With all the grocery competition, that's one of the things that drives this layout is we need to have a typical parking field for Giant so they can compete with Wegmans, Whole Foods, and all the other village center groceries. That's what they need to have. Much like River Hill has the same thing. Giant opens their main parking field. They don't have the courtyard. So what we want to plan to do is create another village green here, a larger area that is better for events. We also going to have the ability to bring a new avenue, as we call it. And this avenue with our circulation pattern, we can cut off all cars so that we could have festivals, art shows, craft shows, anything in this area, because it's not needed for the car circulation. The final phase, much like we did here, the final phase will be a residential building on this end. It will be self-parked, a little bit different. It'll have a parking garage that's in the middle. All the residential will wrap around it. It won't be like Wilde Lake. Wilde Lake wraps around 2 sides. This will be completely contained in the middle. It's what's called a donut design. Retail on the first floor, just like we're doing here, that fronts on the avenue. And then you'll have a residential drop-off area in the back, and the parking deck will enter from the back side where the CA and the future CA park is. That will be the 3rd phase of the development once we get the rest done. Again, our advantage is at this point now, all our construction activities on this end of the site. So the center itself can all operate while we build the residential, probably over an 18-month period.
Where's the bocce court?
The bocce court is back here. Community park. In the community park. On the CA land that's in the rear.
What is the timeline for starting that?
CB 29 takes me at least a year to get through my 3 community meetings, planning board and zoning board. Then I have to go into the standard SDP process. So I got to go through the county SDP, FDP, preliminary plan, comp plan process. In the middle of this is a little different. Wilde Lake had architectural covenants, so we had to deal with the rack here to get approval. They don't, but I got Howard Hughes. So I have to go through Howard Hughes and get Howard Hughes approval, which is a little bit of a different ballgame. So eventually somewhere in the process, when I get down the road, we will submit the site plan to Howard Hughes, and we need to get Howard Hughes approval during that process. My goal would be to first get the village board on, their approval, whatever we're going to do, the layout, because this is just a concept. We remember Wilde Lake changed a lot from start to finish. So this is our thought. Once we get through the village board, I will then go to Howard Hughes, and while I'm going through the county process of planning board and zoning board, I'll go to Howard Hughes, get Howard Hughes approval.
So we're making all the retail so visible. Won't that create more traffic coming out of Cedar Lane to Freetown Road? And considering the high school is right there.
I think what this residential building will generate more traffic. I do, yes.
So
I don't know if the repositioning the retail will so much as the residential building will be. And we'll have to do down the road, we'll have to do a full traffic study, impact analysis on everything that we're doing, yes.
Important question. Have you contacted Verizon and BG&E so they can wear?
This is only a 20-some-year-old building center, not a 40-year-old building center. And hopefully someone had ran a fiber optic down the middle of my site without me telling. So that should help, I hope. Yes. So this is early in the process. As part of CB 29, your village board gets notified of every meeting after we get to the pre-submission meetings and planning board. So you'll be getting all the notices of what we're doing. I'll be slowly but surely going to all the village boards, letting them know what we're doing at Hickory so that everybody's aware.
What is this, I assume you have to do stormwater management?
Yes,
So
we like to do stormwater.
I mean, I don't see ponds in there, so I assume it's some other.
These green spaces will all be biofilters like they are out here.
Okay.
I will try my best not to do impervious pavers because they are a mess. They have not worked. I mean, they function, but they're just a mess. And the maintenance is terrible.
Why are they a mess?
They move, they settle, they clog. So once you get all the dirt in them, they clog, and then the water just sits on top, so I get puddles and I get a mess. And then the mud just sits on the top. Once you get mud in them, then they don't filter anymore, so it just runs off. So we have not been happy with the way they worked out. So I think more biofilters would be a better alternative. We'll still do the brick pavers. I still want to do the brick walk past the walkways like we did in front of David and the Village Center for pedestrian areas to really delineate them. I think it helps slow down cars also when you go across the bumps and all that. But I think for the parking, the pavers have just really not given us the bang for our buck. I think more biofilters would be a better way to go.
We need a crew of kids out here with toothpicks.
You almost do.
Picturing once a week, they could do it in 4 hours.
Are you going to be putting up the things to block the trucks from going through parking lots out here?
Yes, we believe we're still going to need that. We're waiting to see how what we have holds up and the pavers hold up. We were going to put them up during construction, and we thought then we'd be just maintaining them when they do hit them.
Yeah.
So we haven't yet. So we'll see. Once wood gets done, we'll see how the parking lot fares and the pavers fare. I think it would look nicer really without them. So if we could avoid them, I think it would be better. So let's see. Once we get the construction done, we come in. I basically reset all the pavers again. Let's see where we are then. We'll have that discussion. So since you bring up Wilde Lake, any more questions on Hickory Ridge?
Yeah, how many units are you talking about for the apartment building?
300. It's the same we started here at Wilde Lake. We settled at 230 by the time we were done. But here we think we're looking at about 300 units.
How many levels?
It'll be first floor retail or amenities, and then 4 floors of residential above. Same as we have here. Same concept, same design.
They're
basically.
apartments, so they're apartments.
They're
not
apartments,
condos.
yes, they're apartments.
Does this apartment building have a name yet?
Oh, no. This one does.
It does it? Yeah.
Yes.
Alta.
What is it? Oh,
Alta.
Alta,
Yeah, Alta,
Wilde.
yes.
Alta Wilde.
Alta.
ALTA.
Which means old.
Yeah.
The website is Alta Wilde.
There's the whole, I never knew this. There's like a whole design group that goes into picking the names and the colors inside and everything you do. So there's much smarter people than I am that came up with the name Alta.
It reminds me of a hair salon. I'm just-
I'm not sure what that has to do with living in the residential anything. but-
Alta, a whole line of complexes across the
From
country.
Wood Partners, they name all their buildings Alta, so it's a theme that they have across their company. So this will not be named Alta. This will not be the Alta.
It's not an
Oh, it's not wood, for sure.
Right.
Mm.
Okay.
So, speaking of Wilde Lake.
The Alta,
All the things.
just the research on the website.
As I mentioned, I think last month when I was here, we have a tenant for the second floor of the Davids that's taking a little over half the building. We also have another additional tenant, which will be taking 3,000?
Yeah, 3,000.
3,000 square feet of the second floor office. Both tenants have come back to us and would like signage on the office spaces. I will say it's not in the design criteria. So, and the other offices here don't have it. So it's a unique situation that we thought best to come to the board and talk to the board about how we could do this, because it's a fine mix. You know, there's a lot of architecture in that building. This was an extensively negotiated item. There is design criteria that guides what we're supposed to do, but we also understand the need for, especially JC salons that are over 6,000 square feet, that
Yeah,
they
it's-
need identification and signage.
Somewhat more retail in nature than your typical office building, or office tenant. They're kind of a well, they're more of a retail use than anything else. If you're not familiar with the salon suites concept, it's a way for, like, you know, individual hairstylists, or massage or tanning or, you know, various health and beauty type services. For those who don't want to be part of a salon, you can be your own boss and be your own business owner in a salon suites concept. So instead of having a 3,000 or 2,000 or 1,500 square foot retail location, you have 140 square foot, and you know, set your own appointments. But it's a very high end type build out. It's very nice. So, you know, so we were able to encourage them to come to Wilde Lake. But they wanted a little bit more of a retail presence, even though they're going to be up on the second floor. So our floor up there is about 12,000 square feet. They're taking about 6,500 square feet. But they have some contingencies in their lease, and if they don't get certain approvals and things like that, they can terminate their lease. So, you know, we're kind of an advocate of them getting, you know, a couple more opportunities on the street level for signage. You know, we want Wilde Lake to be successful, and part of that is filling it up with tenants. So
Who's the other one?
the other tenant is a dentist, and you know, he picked Wilde Lake too, hoping to have a little bit more of a presence from a you know, street side. So that's the other one that we're struggling with as well. We haven't signed that lease yet.
So this is the package. It's really in no particular order, this package. I don't know if I brought
I'm sure, yeah, I can share.
If I brought enough.
Sure, I'll share that.
for everyone.
I can share it.
Looks like I got plenty.
Well, this is.
Yeah.
So if you flip through it, and starting with maybe, if you start on the back page, this is what the dentist has asked for in their signage. So if you put this in orientation, it is in this section right here on the building of the David's. The office entrance is, if you're looking at this, the office entrance is just to the left where those doors are. That's the entrance dedicated to the office. So what they want is signage in this section of building here next to the office doors. You flip forward from the back page a few pages, there's a picture of the existing office building. The existing David building looks like this picture here. It shows the photograph of the bottom of the existing building and salons by JC. They want the exact same thing, which is a sign right here on this piece. And then they want to take up these spaces here.
So, okay, the dentist sign and the salon sign would be one.
Salons on top.
And then the dentist.
Dental.
Either their colors or.
And so
this dynamic panel
would be, and then, yes, that will be on there, and then, keeping in mind, this is the request we're getting from our tenants, so. I will say I do think it's somewhat excessive. I definitely think, I don't like these signs identify the little things above the brick, and then the architecture here, I don't think they're neat.
Hair, nails, face, and butt.
Yeah, it's a lot like when you go to the grocery store, they have pharmacy, fruits, and, I don't.
And I have to run over here with my Miracle Grow and get those little trees to grow about 3 times the size.
One of the things we thought about looking at, and I'm not sold on this idea, I'm just sort of throwing out the things we've thought about, is putting them over here next to the Davids. But I think it's starting to read like a band marquee on the side of a very attractive building. The Davids was always contemplated. It's retail. It's a little different.
Right.
I think you got to be careful adding more and more tenants there. It's not really, I don't know the look.
Well, and the coloring of Dave's, I mean, that sign. I think
It's
goes
white.
well with,
Right.
right, and this coloring
This
of
is
this is not,
Whoa.
and with that is.
Blue and white.
So is it the coloring or the actual idea that there's more signage?
Well, I personally think that the coloring is a big deal. I don't think the sign should stand out more than anything else around it. I think it should be there. If somebody's looking for the entrance for that business, they should be able to look and see, okay, here's the entrance for that business, but I don't think it should necessarily like draw the eye from every other.
Is there a height, the CBS height, is that what predicates this height? Of your
2 feet. No, they put it there because we had already told them that JC's, who's more of an anchor tenant because of the size, wants to be on the top. So the dental put it below on the anticipation that JC's would be above them.
I see.
The current requirement is the letters can't be over 2 feet high.
Correct. But by the current requirement, we can't put a sign there at all. So we would have to modify the
Right,
sign.
but I'm saying, but for
Either way,
signage, it's 2 feet.
If you look at the very first page, one of our other thoughts though was, if you look at this front is, there's that large landscape circle that sits right in front of the office. One of our thoughts was maybe to do a smaller office marquee that you could put the address on the top where it says office address, and then put it wouldn't be the retail tenants, it would only be the office tenants that are going to be located in the building, to give them some signage, so when you're in the parking lot, you would know that's the direction to go for the entrance to the office because it's on that side. If that sign design would match the other designs to keep the same theme that we have with the way those were designed. That was more of our thought.
Would they be in the colors of those businesses, or would it all be, more standardized? I mean, that yellow and orangey mustard hot doggy thing is great. Of my prejudice.
Let me ask again, are we concerned that we're even thinking about allowing additional signage on the property, or are we just really worried about the mustard yellow? I mean, one depletes the other, so.
It's a combination of appearance and need and necessity. So if I were the tenant, I would want as much visibility as possible.
Correct.
But as the arbiter of these things.
I know you've been involved since the very beginning.
From,
Does
yeah,
it
the
worry
signage
you
was a
about-
really, really big undertaking.
Yes.
From day one. I mean, there was such a to-do about the height and the shape and the thing, but I mean, the conversation about that was endless. And so it kind of ticks at, what the community feel was about how this, the appearance
Correct.
has a lot to do.
And I will say, that we talked about this, that there are no other office tenants in not only Wilde Lake, but the other Wilde centers that have second floor signage. So we have to be very cognizant of allowing office tenants signage. Now, as Kevin said, we don't really see JC Salons is going in office space, but I actually have to redo the parking calculations because they're not considered a office use. So it is more of a retail use. It is, you think about hair salons, nail salons, beauty salons, they're a common retail use in all shopping centers. So there is an argument there that they really aren't an office use, they're a retail use taking office space, which is not uncommon either. I think the second floor is a great use for them. But I think with that being said, there's an argument that they need more signage and probably could use more retail type signage than your typical office tenant. You also think about a lot of office buildings do allow their marquee tenant to have signage on the building. You see it all the time with our building is called the New York Life building because the New York Life takes an entire floor on our building. You see it with a lot of buildings downtown and the Chase is on the building because it's a Chase building. They don't have all the space.
That's our market.
Yeah, then we do already have David. They don't have all the space, but usually they're the anchor. So in this case with the office tenants, JC Salon is the anchor to the office, the anchor to the second floor of the building. And it's truly actually a retail type tenant. Like I said, I wanted to present all our options, get the board's feel and see what direction, your thoughts were and where we should go with this.
So, but just looking at this picture and the size, I mean, it's more than 24 inches because they're measuring 24 inches from the top of the L down to the bottom of the other letters, and then the Y comes well below that.
Among others.
Yeah,
But
so I
we went
mean,
through
that's
this.
it. And also,
We went through this with David. If you remember, Carl and I talked with David, and we shrunk the David sign from the original submittal to fit the criteria also. So I don't think the size is my concern. It's just the entire concept of what we're doing. We just need to make sure, yes, one, the size fits in conjunction with everything else we're doing, but it's also the intent of what we're proposing to do.
Right,
and how we're doing it.
visually fit in with how well, I mean, everything's been so thought out and.
Right.
And it all blends and melds together and but that's sort of an island over there, and so you want that side to, the Wilde Lake Trust side to prosper.
Right.
Let me ask, how does everybody feel about this sign being placed out in front of the building?
As an additional,
As an
like a
additional
kiosk, I think
kiosk.
that's a great idea.
Okay, so we like this,
Mhm.
we're agreeable with this, and they can have their colors and everything on here. Now, as far as signage on the new David's building, are we interested in that being all underneath where the David's lettering is on that one end? Or we like the idea of it being in the middle here, as we're thinking about it a lot.
Middle or the?
That's what I'm asking.
I mean, I defer to those of you that were here when this whole conversation about signage actually took place. I mean,
On 1800.
right. Oh, well, I think we've had, it sounds like we've had this conversation
Sure.
and decisions were made, and so we should stick by it. But if we're gonna lose some major tenant because of this decision, I mean, that's the big
What would happen if, yeah, that's a great point. I mean, what would happen
deal.
if this was nixed, the building signage was nixed?
We'd have to go back to them. They have a contingency in their lease, as I said, about approvals, some of which are building permit approvals, which are typical in a contingency situation with a lease. So they could, I guess they could decide to walk away. We could, propose the marquee monument sign there to them, and we can get their feedback, and if we're, at a point, I mean, we want to, as Greg said, I mean, I think we want things to be tasteful. We don't necessarily want to have 30-inch or 36-inch letters where, the concept is nothing's more than 2 feet. So those are all things I think we can work around. I think for the future though, for example, Wilde Lake Karate came to me, and this is a whole other story, and I didn't really want to get into that tonight, but, they would like to take maybe the whole second floor of their, above them right now, because it's 4,000 square feet. The concern was losing, their retail presence. So, maybe there was a thought that, if a tenant is taking more than half the building, for example, that we look at, 1, 2, and 3 in the future, having some type of tasteful signage done on the building. And that's similar to what happens downtown Columbia with the Merrill Lynch building and at one time the Ryland building and some of the other. That's kind of normal. I know you spent a lot of time on this. Believe me, I was part of all those conversations. We want to stay competitive. I think that's important, and I think the board and the village has done a great job. Whereas rewind 12 years ago, we didn't have the signs out on Twin Rivers Road, and so but we're also kind of feeling the market now, and we're realizing that we're there, but there might be some other small steps to continue to ensure that the village is successful. So
that's such a great point, Kevin, because you want people to know there's stuff here, and there's a mix, and it's not just pizza. That there is so much more than that you can do when you come here. And and when you listen to that presentation about the walkways coming into here, so you have all of that foot traffic that can come from the college.
Yeah.
So is there a possibility of, there was something that was said at the very beginning of the presentation about the side of the building, on the other side of David?
Well, my thought really is I don't like it over by the David side.
The nails and.
I don't like any of that. I don't like it over by the David's logo for a couple reasons. One, you're starting to mount tenants, and it starts to look like literally a sign, not a building. The second thing is their entrance is not over there, David's entrance is over there.
Oh,
So I don't like it.
You let Jeff bring up the point real quick.
My thought was where you were pointing out where their entrance is, a few small signs on that, similar to the David sign, or maybe a dark to,
Yes.
against it. I think you talked about it, but no more than, their whole thing shouldn't have the yellow. It should be, and the whole thing should not be more than the 24 inches that we talked about from top of whatever the letter is to the bottoms.
The overall sign, yes.
And I think that's tasteful, and I think it's
Similar to what's in David's already.
Not that blue or all that.
Do you think we should just do one? Because again, when you start putting more on there.
No, just the main.
Just the one main
Just the
anchor.
one
I agree with you. I agree with you 100%.
Okay,
Others
so
go
we
ahead.
do that, and we can put everybody else there, so that when you're in the parking lot, we put it on that end, you know where you're going.
Yes, definitely. Okay.
Wait, so the one business gets their sign, but the others.
Well, the one that's taking up.
They're taking up over half the building.
Well, half of the second.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what we're saying is that area where the doorway is for their office, just the salons by JC, and a similar writing as David's.
So where's
So
the dentist gonna go?
Dennis does not get signage except for here.
Yeah, there'll be like the similar marquees that we have throughout the
Is that what
property.
we're saying?
Yeah, that's what,
Okay. Both here, but only one, and that's spaced by the doorway. That would be our
In the
recommendation.
same color as the David's.
So we'll-
yeah, it's all replicated the same. It would be as if you had the hanging shingles kind of thing.
Kristen, what does this require from the board? It's between Kevin and us today.
This is just a
This is
discussion.
discussion, right?
It's just a discussion.
Thank
you.
We're just,
Some feedback. Yeah.
we want feedback because we want to give them
We're
guidance.
gonna have to talk to them, and then what we'll do is we'll submit whatever will be the formal application. And
Yeah.
I always like to, as we've always done, I like to come, get everybody's thoughts
Smart move.
on how we want to do something and come to an agreement before we just submit something and I get, oh my, because. We've done that before. Yeah, it didn't work well with that first design we submitted because.
Oh, no.
Right, so I think it's always best to come in and
Appreciate it.
work it all out. So we'll put some application together, some thoughts based on what everybody feels here and submit something.
You know,
Well, it sounds like you guys are more concerned about it and more concerned about it.
Like,
Did it come out that way?
I spent 8 years in this village center and working on it. And I like the project we've developed and I want to maintain what we've kept going and what we're trying to do out here. And I think it's very important. So.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good to see you again, Greg.
Nice to see you.
Good seeing you.
Um,
And also, while I have him here, put him under the gun. This is the man that knows the KFC.
What's that?
Oh, what's going on with KFC building?
Color scheme is more and more.
Yeah, well, it's not public knowledge, but we're at least with Starbucks.
Be very careful not to say this, but.
Wait a minute, did you just being recorded?
What?
Is this being recorded? Oh.
And a percentage of you waiting into our viewers or,
Forget it. It's fine.
Yeah.
CD 29, as far as the bottom
We're gonna
line.
stay out of it, not that, but we're gonna keep them in the existing building. So we will do a architectural modification and submit it, which will go to our architectural review committee, but it keeps me from going all the public meetings. And so the code is written as called a minor development, we don't have to do that, it's the exact foundation, and we will. How far we can strip that building down? Yeah, we do all that, then I get into it. How far we strip the building down, depending on the structural, the plot, and master get into, but we'll keep the foundation, keep the drive-through, because they want to drive through, keep everything in the parking lot. I think that building is better.
Oh, yeah.
Like it does.
Just like we run into
Thanks a lot.
All right, next on the agenda is the KC liaison. Or, I'm sorry.
No, application.
The swim splash.
Oh, no. That's so we can send it to the RAC.
Did everyone see Carl's submittal?
Yes.
I have, the, larger, if you want to look through this.
Kristen, go ahead and walk us
Well,
through.
the question really doesn't really have to do with reviewing the application per se, but it is a non-residential application from CA. Traditionally, we have treated CA applications as just a regular application, and they've been reviewed by the RAC. And so Carl is suggesting or recommending that this application, rather than having to go through the whole non-residential process and being reviewed by the AAP, that the board approve setting the application, not approve the application, approve sending the application to the RAC.
I make a motion that we send the CA swim center application to the RAC for coming back in.
Yeah, I second that.
It's been moved and seconded.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any discussion?
No, I talked to Carl
All
just
those
very
in
briefly today, and he said everything is still the same, it's just a matter of moving it forward that way, and I think that's a great idea.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. All right. Passed. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have anything for Carl.
AC liaison?
No, we have the Woods entrance sign.
We're gonna do that
I'm
now,
sorry.
right?
Oh, yes.
We're doing that now.
Okay.
This is perfect timing.
So, Rhoda, did you see, or anybody, of the big Wilde Lake sign on, that Harper's Farm was, that they repainted that, maybe a month ago? The Wilde Lake sign, I think it's blue, and it's beautiful. It looks-
Where?
It's right,
The one going
Harper's
towards
Farm.
Harper's Choice.
yeah, if you're coming from the athletic club, driving back towards
Yes, I did
Right.
see that,
Rivers
okay.
in the median. it's one of-
Does everybody have one of these?
Uh,
There's an extra one
So
that's
what color is
sitting
it?
down there.
It's, I think it's blue, like,
It's blue and white, yeah, dark
blue and white, it's
yeah.
beautiful.
I had endless varieties of these, and it's
This is
it's
the-
endless how many combinations you can do with this. And so what I thought, if you would like to hold your your picture and take a look at these and try to see what the top is the Bryant Woods, the lower one is the is where it says in Wilde Lake. And so I thought if you'd like to do that and come up and kind of maybe hold your picture.
Say it again.
So I narrowed it down to these because I had,
Right, if you give me those, I can scan them and I can change, and I can put, change the colors so that people can see what they would be like.
Oh, cool.
How cool is that?
I'm cool.
okay, well, I thought that you might want to see.
The background is, the colors are.
So this is, there's some more, hold on.
This is like going to Home Depot.
Yeah, it's like,
Wait a minute, I lost a couple, where'd they go?
Where'd you get these from?
No, these were from Lowe's. I just kept going back every time I found a combination and I needed another tone. There's 6. I've got one more in here. So the background, this is the background. And the top one would be Bryant Woods. The second one would be in Wilde Lake.
Yeah.
And then the darker color would be what's up on top. See, look at the your little thing. And then that little facial board down the
Wait, I
bottom.
don't understand what you're saying.
Yeah, and so what happened was because I kept making so many of these, and then I would leave them out, and anybody that came by, I would ask, what they liked and what their preference was. And so it turned out that it should have this wood kind of thing because it's Bryant Woods, it's in the woods, and also because there's so much green. And then there's also because of the water. The lake has sort of been, Wilde Lake has kind of been relegated to like nowhere on any of the, where you come into Bryant Woods. So we have another one. Hang on.
So who
Find
did
it.
this?
So I had a couple of dozen and and then I broke it down to 3 and then I put 3 back in this afternoon a couple hours later. It's kind of wild. I'll find the other one.
All right, so
Remind
me
me.
to take those and,
Yeah, I think I'll give us.
I think that would
because,
be
yeah, I can't visualize it.
Yeah,
Everyone, remind me exactly, or Rhoda, can you remind us from the original meeting exactly what we're thinking about doing, having who paint and.
Well, you said that the CA paints it, right? And we don't have to apply because we're the people the arbiters for the decision making, right? Is what you said.
But we run it through our
We
rack,
haven't had
right?
that discussion. Yeah, I mean, I think we would have,
I like the way
want to
it
go
looks
through
there.
the process. But I thought that this was, they paint the signs on a regular basis. I don't know how often it is, every 3 years, or whatever it is, but they have a schedule to repaint the signs. And so Rhoda offered to sort of come up with some suggestions that when they're ready to repaint the signs, if they would consider whatever color the board.
Yeah, something new, something fresh.
So, I mean, we can
For the
put
next
colors
time.
forward, there's
Right.
no guarantee that CA will agree to them, but, I think they're always.
What's interesting is that Carl told me that, I think he said Roslyn Rise,
Mhm.
they wanted to update their signage, and as a result, they have decided to copy the colors of the entrance signs to Faulkner Ridge and Bryant Woods. And he said they're submitting an application to the RAC. He told me that, so I'm missing one here, but I'll find it before.
Right.
So it sounds like you need to team up with Rosalind? No.
No, so he told them that what he would do is he would just let them know that we were considering this, so it's not that is set in stone.
Okay, so the mapping of the color is, the big square is mapping to the yellow.
Mhm.
The left one is mapping to,
The top one is
Brown.
mapping to say Bryant Woods, the bottom one it says in Wilde Lake.
okay, and then what were you saying about the, you've got the green,
Right,
Yeah.
the logo in the top and bottom. What color were those?
So it would be exactly the same thing. It would
That's
just
Stays green.
no, it would replace,
It would be the same thing as the Wild Lake, all right.
right.
So the green goes to the right,
Right.
the Bryant Woods, the brown goes to the left, and the sign goes to the thing. And then how about the
There's only 3 colors there, so what they've
What's
done.
the thing on the bottom is
I'm
the same
sorry,
thing
guys,
as
I was
the
really trying to get you home early today.
The thing on the bottom, that is exactly the same color as the Bryant Woods.
So why don't you give me those, and I'll think about scanning. Can you email me this picture?
Sure.
Because I assume you have it,
Yeah,
and that way I can get something close.
right.
By,
But I've got another one, so I don't know where.
All right,
Don't worry, don't
Hold on.
worry, we'll find it before the end of the meeting.
Maybe it's in my purse, yeah, that's it. Because I stuck this in my.
Well, thank you, I appreciate it.
This is the same, and this is the
bottom.
this is the bottom. This is.
All right, next on the agenda, oh, I'm sorry, there was not truly a vote for this. This is basically a discussion.
Right.
And next step for this particular,
Jeff's gonna scan.
Jeff's gonna scan, he's ready to send the information out to us. We get to pick and choose and.
Maybe if you could do that in like the next week or so.
Well, if we get out of this meeting, I can do it tonight.
Considering that I spent all afternoon trying to make
You're next on it.
decisions on this.
All right, next on the agenda, the liaison report. There were a total of 3 applications that were approved and signed. And Carl's got a meeting coming up next week, and he's got at least 3 applications there. It looks like they should go through.
All right,
So that's that.
would you believe you're next again? Education.
Nothing to report. Oh, yeah, I got to get a note out. To advertise things to be going on about the schools that people are proud of, it was suggested to have PTA presidents once a month send me something. And so now I got to send a note to them saying, okay, we're proud of, besides the fact that school was out for a week.
Actually, it was 10 consecutive days. I was talking to somebody yesterday.
That's it.
All right, neighborhood representatives. Will?
We have a gathering on Saturday. And some vulnerabilities, relax. On Saturday.
You can, or I was gonna mention them during my.
No, all right, I'll skip those. You can do that. So during our neighborhood rec gathering on Saturday, we talked about the welcome bag and also the annual neighborhood rep gathering. So Barbara, our neighborhood rep, suggested that instead of just doing or focusing on neighborhood rep each year, we should sort of broaden it to Wilde Lake as a village, invite residents and stuff.
Check it out.
That was good. Right on time.
Please. In addition to that, they suggested doing something that has to do with plant sharing, right, with residents.
Yeah, plant swap.
Plant swap,
Do you wanna
right.
do the connection thing?
Well, unfortunately, I think we'll be at
Oh.
the election day. When I do it, I'm gonna be here, but, we felt we could kind of combine that event with maybe.
Instead of doing separate events
Yeah.
and stuff.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so the plan was to try to schedule one for early spring. So we're looking at maybe May.
Can we pick a date? Like, can we
Where do
maybe
you wanna
pick?
do this? Oh, you wanna do it outside?
Unless it's raining.
Well, so if it's raining, would that mean you wouldn't do it, or you would wanna come in?
Could we come in?
Well, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
We are jam-packed from like now
Well,
till inside,
right,
Outside,
you know,
yeah.
outside.
maybe we could have a rain date.
Yeah.
Or do it,
You
let's
wanna
do it
do
rain or
some-
shine.
Should just brainstorm a date.
Well, so I mean, I have some suggestions, and then if you wanted to do an event with Barbara
Right.
that same day, you'd have to check with her, but then
Right.
she would need the indoor space.
Correct.
So then you'd have to
Okay.
run it by Slate now.
Just for the audience
Why
at
don't
home
we-
and so
Why
on,
don't we talk off?
I think
Okay.
All
the
right.
committees,
Right.
we're in the middle of Wula's conversation, but obviously there's.
So that was the key talking point. Revamping the annual meeting and also talk about the welcome bags. That Kristen did an excellent job with the brochure that was done by Burns and Associates, which has a lot of good information in it. And I also received some names from Kristen, new residents that are more dated back to August, I believe.
Yeah, September, but yeah.
Yes, so last year, and I plan on sending the names to the neighborhood reps and asking if anyone would like to volunteer to deliver those bags to our new residents. And also, I plan on keeping the container that has all the bags, Slayton House, just in case.
Yeah. Oh,
Neighborhood rep needs to just run and come
Sure.
instead of going to my house and
Sure.
pick them up.
Right.
And I can deliver, you know, I volunteer to
Sure.
deliver them to people if they need.
Yep, that's it.
All right. Wilde Care.
Um,
Thank you.
okay, well, so we mentioned the plant swap, so, I think that would be really cool, so I'm gonna email you guys right after I stop talking. We're looking at April 17th as a potential planting date with CA down at the lake where we've been doing some invasive species removal. So as soon as I get approval from John McCoy, then I'll let you all know so we can start advertising for volunteers. And I think families in need will join us for that event. But clearly the more people we have, the better. And I'm hoping to get some bigger caliber trees this time to plant kind of in the tree area near the restaurant. A lot of those trees are dead or dying, so I think kind of replacing those now rather than waiting until the tree falls is a good idea. You know,
You're talking about Plant Lake?
yeah, where the bamboo was removed.
Oh, okay,
from the
okay,
other side
on
of the
the-
path up there.
Along the lakeside. Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then we have our cleanup on April 23rd, which I want to combine with an invasive species pool. So I think as we're advertising for the cleanup, if we can coordinate advertising for the invasive pool as well. So, you know, we can, some volunteers can come with me, some can pick up trash, they can do both, they can, whatever. And other than that, I'm really trying to kind of learn from the other watershed committees in the other villages, kind of how they operate and the frequency of their meetings and what their goals are. And so that's kind of my plan over the next couple of months. So we can really try to get wildlife care more formalized and have some goals. And, I did hear from Sean Harbaugh about fishing at Wilde Lake, and he has asked me if I'm interested in addressing specifically fishing at Wilde Lake or management of all the lakes. Because I want to have a community meeting about the lakes and the direction of the management of the lakes, kind of looking down the line. So if anybody has thoughts on that, I welcome your input, because I kind of haven't made up my mind if, you know, I want to try to bring in the broader community and talk about all the lakes or really just focus on Wilde Lake. But I'm happy to have you send me your thoughts.
Probably want to start with one.
My concern in doing that is if, let's say, and I don't think this will be the case, what if I'm successful in banning fishing at Wilde Lake? Then I'm gonna have all the people that live near Elkhorn and the people that go down to Kittamukundy annoyed with me because now there's fishing at their lakes, why not at Wilde Lake? So I almost feel like it's kind of a community-wide issue. It's not just Wilde Lake. So I'm a little bit, you know, I need to think about it more and kind of hear from folks, kind of. I don't know.
I gave you my 2
that's,
cents.
no, Jeff, I appreciate it so much. And that was my initial, like, that's what I wanted to do when I started this. But in thinking about it, like, I don't want to annoy the folks in these other villages because I've been successful in getting things changed at Wilde Lake, and now their lakes are maybe suffering because of it. I don't know.
We could look at a positive side to maybe and say, hey, let's check with Beth to see how she managed to.
Right, I mean, that's true. It could be a positive thing. Oh, Bess did it.
Maybe
Let's see.
become famous.
Well, one of the things one of the things
Fishing, the no fishing lady, that's really
is
great.
just you are looking at a wider audience. You may
Yes.
get more people, we can ask the other villages to join with us and, you know, advertise and all that kind of thing. That
Right.
could be a big positive.
Right, right.
Absolutely.
Do you think people do not want to fish or they want to fish?
I think it's very split. That's in talking to folks and the survey we gave out at the picnic last year. I mean, it was like 50-50 on either side. So, you know, I think there's some education that could be done, and that might sway people one way or the other, depending on who's doing the educating. So I'd like to hear from other villages, other people, as well.
Is there any way to do a survey?
I mean, we could do a Survey Monkey or a Google, I mean, we could make up a survey. Disseminating it would be the tricky part.
If you sent out a monkey survey, you could send it out through the newsletter channel.
Yeah, I mean, then, you know,
So
kind of missing that.
Right.
probably gonna
Right.
maybe go on the lake when people are fishing and ask them, what are your thoughts on
Well, that's
Randy
kind of,
fishing.
that's kind of what we did at the picnic.
By the way, do you like fishing or don't you like fishing?
That's like sort of what we did. So at the picnic, we got 50 people to respond, 48, I think, to respond to our survey. And some were people that fished at the lake, and of course, everybody that I talked to that fishes, they're all the most responsible people ever. And then 50% of those people were like, yeah, this is a problem. You know, my kid almost stepped on a hook the other day, and I called the wildlife people about a bird that had the fishing line wrapped around its beak. And so I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know really how
responsible fishing?
Yeah, calling, having a brainstorming session of people who are interested and willing to come and seeing what they say.
But, do people who fish in Wilde Lake come from this area, or do they come from other places? Because having lived on Wilde Lake, the whole time I've been here, most of the time, especially when the children were little, and we would walk and we would, of course, talk to the fishermen. But none of those people ever lived here,
And
so
I think it's still, I think it's a mix, but I
It's still
think there's
somewhat
a
of
lot
that, yeah,
outsiders
right.
coming in, which is not, not against.
so
outsiders
that's
coming in.
the base of how would you get people to come and have that discussion? When I put that out to the Watershed Advisory Committee, after one person responded, and she said I sent you that. She said she wasn't, in a position to respond because she doesn't fish. So
Well, the fishing community, according to Sean Harbaugh, they're gonna come out in strong support of fishing at the lake. So unless there's a movement of people that don't fish or don't like fishing or can show that fishing is harmful or that the fishing rules need to be modified,
Right.
then, the fishing people have a very strong backing. So, I just wanna mention that as we try to drum up support for community meeting, all sides will be represented, which is a good thing. So anyway, I'll continue kind of my correspondence with the open space folks and work with Rhoda to kind of talk to the watershed committees and representatives.
We think people that live close to the lake will be a good target because they experience.
Well, they'll be the ones that say no, absolutely.
Exactly, yeah.
Not in my backyard.
But I've seen people standing looking through their windows, looking through their doors.
So did you have anything for?
Well, the only thing I wanted to say, which was what I addressed
Yeah, well,
the question to Nancy, was whether or not the board would take action now that they decided that ERC accepted the recommendation from the Watershed Advisory Committee to follow our lead and to ask the county council not to rescind the stormwater fee. And so there's going to be a discussion on this in about a month by the county council. And if you're interested, I'll let you know the date. The hearing went till, was it 12:30, 1 o'clock at night? I mean, it went forever. And and everybody who spoke had something different to say, which was pretty admirable. So we'll see what happens. It seems as if there's a leaning now to make, the whole premise was that there's no dedicated fund and that the incentives would be going away. So now it seems as if there is a slow leaning to more having a fund that would be not necessarily dedicated, but a fund that would not be variable funds. Because the big issue was, where's that money going to come from? Is it going to come from a fund which supports education? Is it going to come from a fund that supports something else? And we did not want to feel as though we were denying something that already existed and take from that. So we'll see what happens when they have the work session. So I think Nancy's, who made the recommendation, that whether or not we also had a stand on it, but if it's an individual feeling, I mean, I certainly can understand that. Unless there's a motion that somebody feels strongly, I'll be happy to make it. Whether or not we have a position to send the county council a letter and say that we follow the recommendation of the Watershed Advisory Committee and the Columbia Board of Directors.
Wilde.
I would be in support of that, but.
So should I make the motion or?
There's a discussion on the floor right now regarding Wilde Lake Village Board recommending to the Howard County Council that they, is it disregard?
No, they do not rescind the stormwater fee.
They do not rescind the stormwater fee.
Well,
Are
there's,
we
just
interested
to
in having
clarify a
more?
little bit, what's going on is there's legislation that is now before the
Thank you.
council.
Right.
So you want to either support the legislation or not support the legislation, not necessarily talk about repealing the.
Well,
I mean,
it would repeal, the legislation would repeal the stormwater
Right.
fee. It's Bill 52, 2015.
So we are not, we would say, if we chose, we would not be in support of it.
Legislation.
So,
So make a motion.
oh, okay, I will be happy to make a motion. I would like to make a motion that the Wilde Lake Village Board supports the recommendation of the Watershed Advisory Committee and the ERC to advise the county council and the county executive that we are not in support of the County Council Bill 52, 2015 to rescind the stormwater fee.
Can we shorten that to Wilde Lake Village Board is not in favor of the county council?
Not in support
Passing
of
it.
legislation.
Not in support of
Yeah,
legislation
right, yeah.
and not put all those other things?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
So
Well,
do
actually,
not,
kind of makes
do
it
not mention
stronger.
the WAC.
Well, I think it's kind of like, it builds up the
Right,
foundation of who is, it kind of makes this.
What's the ERC?
The External Relations Committee of the Columbia Association Board of Directors. There's 3 committees.
Nancy's group, we
Yeah.
have a subcommittee.
Yeah, I just didn't know,
And then wrote as part of the CA watershed group.
well, I
So
mean,
that's 2 CA
yeah,
organizations.
what the letter says is one thing, it's going into the letter. What our resolution can be is just a simple thing.
Right.
We don't approve it,
Can't we?
and then somebody's got to write the letter that can include all of what you
It
said.
could be very simple. Could be basically just a couple sentences.
Right. We have a second.
All right, it's been moved.
I
Do I have a second? All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Wait, why don't we read the motion that we're voting?
Village Board supports the recommendation of the WAC and the ERC that the Village Board is not in support of legislation that rescinds the stormwater fee.
Okay, that's that one thing. All in favor?
All right,
Can we just,
Please,
but I
please.
thought that Jeff was suggesting
Jeff
that
was
we change
suggesting
it to just say
leave
that the Wilde Lake Village Board is not in favor of the legislation.
Okay.
Because
Take
first of
out-
all, we
take out the
haven't
recommendation.
reviewed what the ERC says, we haven't reviewed the WAC statement. So I think it's stronger, this is the board's position, it doesn't have anything to do with what CA is saying or not.
I'll be happy to send you what we sent up to our resolution. I'll send you that. It's just a couple sentences.
All right.
And what we sent up to the ERC.
So you want to just say that the Village Board is not in support of the legislation
Rescind it.
that rescinds the stormwater
Right,
fee.
it's County Council Bill 52, 2015.
Keep it simple.
But you need to name the bill.
It's Council Bill 52,
2015.
2015.
Re-verify that before you send it out.
Yes.
Yeah, I will send you.
We will.
I have it.
Yeah, I will send you the statement so you can see that if you want to
Okay.
use any of that language.
Right.
Okay. Thank you very
It's
much.
been moved and seconded. Did we vote?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. I wanted to make sure.
We had a little questioning.
Discussion
We had to decide.
afterwards.
Clarification,
All right.
that's all.
You brought the question. Are you satisfied?
Yeah, oh, yeah, no, I-
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
whatever shows up in the minutes will be. I mean,
All
I
right,
know.
manager report, Kristen, please.
Well, you all have these fantastic purple bags and new green pens and also our new
What new green
welcome to Wilde Lake brochure. Brown and Associates did the design for us on this, and we provided the text and the information, but they really put it together, and Carol and I think they did a really terrific job.
Phenomenal.
And there's some good information in here, so hopefully we can start getting them into our residents' hands.
Very nice.
Yeah. That's about it. We survived the snow. We were closed for,
Forever.
no, we made it in on Wednesday. That was pretty good.
Mhm.
No problems though, no leakage from all the snow, no roof problems. CA did their usual terrific job of clearing the walkways and the parking lots and everything, so that was really good. And the last thing I did just want to mention is that Rachel will be back from maternity leave on February 8th.
Hey, all right, Rachel.
And Carol survived the contingency fund questioning when you were out.
Oh.
Done excellent.
I didn't really do it.
You had sat here and nodded.
Yes.
And Kevin gave you your kudos, so you were cleared.
Absolutely. Kristen, anything else?
No, that's all.
All right, very thorough report that you sent out. Thank you very much. Board Chair, just wanted to let you know, we talked last month about an Oakland Mills event regarding home building and home remodeling. They have decided not to solicit for support of the other villages and just do it themselves, just Oakland Mills this one time. But what has come up is that there is interest from the 50th Reunion Committee to create a series of activities or events around the rebuilding and renewal of homes and construction within all of Columbia. And they would possibly seek village input to constructing all of these separate little events leading up to the actual big main event. But it would be based on ideas like contractors and builders and loan specialists and individuals at separate little events, maybe per village, but we'll know more later. So keep you posted on that. The other thing is the Partridge Courts board had me at their meeting a couple of weeks ago, and they were very, very interested in learning more about grants and loan opportunities to assist them in helping refurbish their location. And they said if we as a board come across anything, please forward it to them so that they can make sure that they get it out to their residents. I said it's not exactly what our forte is, but if we hear something, we'll definitely.
That is very, very hard. I actually engaged in a conversation with some folks yesterday about just that, about finding grants to support revitalization, whether it's in the ground or building or whatever it might be. And finding the grant is, it's a lot of work. And then you have to rate it, which is also a great deal of work. And so I asked how you go about doing that. How do you even begin? You know, do you just put in, you know, Maryland, you know, Chesapeake Bay, the trust, whatever, and you just start doing that. You just go, and then it takes you, the trail will take you to other granting agencies that will just start popping up. And then they will have on their sites what the timelines and the parameters are all of this. And that's the only way that I have been told to go about doing something like that. So, I mean, that's all I can give you to pass on. That isn't anything that we have looked into, right? I mean,
If you hear of anything, just pass it, please, thanks. Let's see, something that I noticed, the website that's on the back of here, that is for the village center and the different vendors. I went there and it's antiquated as far as how you eventually pick out Wilde Lake and get past there and shuffled over. But once you get there, the first thing that comes up is the old courtyard. Somebody needs to contact them and get a new courtyard image, something that looks a little brighter.
It's like a link.
It's, yeah, it's a series of links. Once you hit this,
The Columbia Villages.
Yeah.
this goes to a list and it says which village center you're interested in. And then once you click there and you click Wilde Lake, immediately brings up an old Safeway type in boxed in area. And just thought I'd let you know. Also for Slayton House, our representation on that website, once you get to the village center, basically it just has our phone number and our address. There might be a link to our website, but if we can get our additional social pages on there, our links.
Okay.
I'm not sure how much is involved, but the
Well, I
other,
mean, I would
the village
love
center,
email Greg. I mean, it's a
David's
info
has like a
site.
paragraph and
And
all
they
the
have the
restaurants, they have,
the world's worst website, David's too.
they do.
Oh, it's
Anyway,
terrible.
just FYI. The other thing was, at the bicycle master plan meeting, they had asked if the villages could possibly locate and help funnel to them, or at least to the council, Howard County Council meeting on the bicycle master plan, inexperienced riders. The majority of the people that came and gave testimony at the master plan meeting for the Department of Planning and Zoning, they were all individuals that felt like they were pros or were highly ranked, skilled bicyclists, and, you know, create this master plan so that we can have better use of the paths and riding on the sides and this, that, and the other. But truly, what they're looking for to give testimony at the county level is those inexperienced riders that need the comfort of a like a separate lane from the main street, and individuals that ride to school, possibly students, families, etc. So if, as a board, if we can find or think of any way that we can, you know, I don't want to solicit, but perhaps put a note someplace, either in a newsletter or somewhere.
I want the C2H, there are a lot of people like that who don't really like to ride on roads.
So maybe you address it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, people.
How about from a board perspective, can you think of anything else that we can do to help with passage?
Yeah, road can ride it. You know, people here don't ride their bikes very much.
well, my bike was stolen, so. I haven't been riding it since.
I know.
It was a great.
All right, I'm gonna leave it alone if we
Yeah.
can't think of any way to pursue that, but I'll bring it up.
Newsletter,
Do it in talking, you know, talking wild. Kevin's talking wild.
And
perfect idea.
Kevin's talking not so wild.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is all I had. Member comments. Rhoda, anything?
Yeah, I have a favor or a question. I know I was a few minutes late at the last meeting and Greg was already talking, but in your, somewhere, I read that you had intentions of inviting presidents from the President's Club to more village meetings, and I didn't understand why Bill Miller was here. I mean, so were the presidents of the President's Club
What is the
referenced at the last meeting?
What is the President's Club?
I have an email listserv. Basically, I'm just a member on their email list, and so they get the email newsletter like everybody else does. And at the last meeting, we had several people come, but Bill Miller's on that same distribution.
Yeah, so I mean, so if there
That's
are
per their
people that are
president.
here that are part of a group, then that group my suggestion would be that they are recognized as that group and, maybe that will give them more incentive to come back, since you invited them.
I'm not sure what you're asking me to do.
Recognize them.
I read the resident speak out list, and that was a long list during that
Yeah.
meeting.
But were they recognized as presidents of their HOAs?
If they didn't write it on the list, no, I didn't read it all of that.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, if they stood and spoke, then definitely.
Mhm.
But just to recognize them in the room.
Well, since they were invited, I mean, it kind of seemed like that if someone is invited and they show up, then they should.
Did you hear
be-
something? Is that?
No, I'm just thinking in my head because you asked them to come back again, so
Okay, okay.
that was the only reason
Sounds
I'm
good.
going there.
Sounds good.
That's all.
Anybody else? Is there anything else? Any other comments?
Just
How
about
about,
the news,
go ahead, Bess.
the newsletter. I
Okay.
know we talked about that a couple months ago about looking at the newsletter and then maybe putting together a little working group to look at it. So we haven't moved on that. And I wasn't here for the January meeting, so I know it's been at least 2 months. So I just want to bring that to our attention again. And
All right.
since we said we were going to do that, we should do it.
Do you guys want me to spend time tonight talking about the newsletter?
I mean, you could.
I have feedback. I have
Your
feedback.
suggestion was you were gonna put together like a little working group to take a look at it, so I kind of want to say it's in your hands, whether you've done that or not, or whether you
Yeah,
want.
what we could learn,
anybody
what we would know
on
to
the
be
board
up to
in
speed on
that.
where that's at, yeah.
Right.
And then also kind of more social media, we talked again at the neighborhood rep
Right.
meeting about if
Tag
there's a
and-
way that community members can post to the Facebook page, even with your approval. I was not able to like tag the Wilde Lake Community Association in a picture, which is kind of, or post on the page. So to kind of look at the Facebook page, and maybe we need one of us to come in and sit down
Okay.
with you
Yeah.
signed
Schedule a
in
day.
to change
I
some
mean, I
information.
do post the newsletter on Twitter.
Well,
and
I
on
mean, like
Facebook.
residents to be able to post to the page a beautiful picture, they're standing at Wilde Lake, or
people do that before.
I could not do it on.
No, you need
Well,
administrative
I'm
approval.
happy to
Right.
sit down with.
And then you could approve the post
Right,
before it
right,
gets
right.
posted.
Okay.
Right,
But yeah, so I just.
okay. I mean, I
I'm
thought
not-
that
I'm
we
not
had
the
that
Facebook.
ability. I'm not either, but if we'll
Yeah.
then,
You couldn't do it just now, okay.
So
something
Anyway,
has to change.
I'm happy to come in and
It
look
might
at it
be
with you
the
guys.
permission
or-
settings. we
Yeah.
can Go over. it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or we can find like a
Sure.
15-year-old to come in.
It's a good thing we have young people here on the board.
Okay, that was it. So the
Okay.
newsletter and the Facebook.
So do you have, how long would it take for you to just bring us up to date on what it is that you've learned about the newsletter?
Well, the one main thing is that it's going to require some major restructuring of staff members. Here at Wilde Lake, it would also require, if we want to do something really nice and fancy, it's going to require advertising. So we'll have to wrap our minds around soliciting businesses to help fund this extensive underhaul or undertaking that we're thinking about doing. The only thing I mean about staffing is because usually for a fancier publication, you're talking about a professional, someone that's their wheelhouse. That's what they do for a living. They do the advertising, the publishing, the marketing. They do all the liaison with all the different organizations.
But Kevin, what about the content though? Like the look is, I'm not so
Go
much the
ahead,
look,
go
but
ahead.
the content.
First of all, I don't think this is a board discussion. Okay, the newsletter is a staff function. So at the last meeting, Kevin said that he would do an executive committee to review it. We haven't met yet. I think the intention was that it would be me, Kevin, and Nancy as this committee. We haven't been able to get all our schedules together between being sick, being away, and the snow. So, that is on our list to do, but we haven't talked about anything yet. Okay, I don't want to, I mean, everything's on the table, but nothing's on the table. Do you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, no, I just
Right.
wanna
right,
find out the update.
well,
Okay.
So it sounds like
right,
you guys will meet
yes.
Yeah.
and we will go from there.
Yes.
Okay, that's all I have to say.
All right.
And it will be
Wilde,
done.
did you have anything? No? All right. In that case, I'd like a motion to adjourn, please. Have a second? All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any opposed? Of course. Any adjourned? Oh, on closing.
So I just would like to tell you that the colors that are here, I'm going to send you a picture that I took before I left. There's one missing, they're numbered 1 through 6. And that's, I don't know how you're going to do whatever it is you plan to do there, Jim.
Well, send me, remember sending me
I will
That
send you,
picture
I will
of that.
send everybody a picture of that, and I will send you a picture of
the sign.
the sign.
Carol, was there a sign-in sheet?
Mhm.
I have a copy. Thank you.
Good to see you.